Hello, welcome to Late Night Video Chats. This is my podcast where I just sit down and I speak to the camera. Unedited, no retakes. Sometimes I don't have any notes. I don't have any notes today. And I just speak my mind. And so this is the topic. To the people who grew up never being invited to birthday parties, this is my advice to you. Now, to backtrack why I'm making this podcast, or why I'm making this video in general, is that I was on the internet and I saw this video of a mom comforting her child after finding out that her child was the only person and the only kid that wasn't invited to a birthday party. And that really struck hard with me. I think I too also grew up as somebody who was never invited to birthday parties, or when I would invite people to my birthday parties, not a single person would come. And it was really hard for me, and I felt like because I was the only person in my class who was treated that way, I was the only person in the world who felt like that. And if I had one sentence to offer to that young girl, I would say, what those classmates, that small pool of people think of you is no definition to who you actually are as a person, and does not define you as somebody who is unlovable or is incapable of being liked or isn't a light to be around by people. Seeing those comments of people and people flooding in being like, I relate to this, and I also felt like this. I also realized that years later, I'm 20 years old, and this happened to me since, I don't know, the age of 4 to 9 or 10. And realizing this years later that I'm not the only person who has gone through those types of experiences and has felt those types of emotions, I felt very reassured, even though I didn't have that reassurance when I was younger. I had nobody I could put my back on, and to really understand that it's not, those people don't mean that you're somebody who can't be loved or can't be liked, that there's nothing interesting about you. Why would no one invite me to their birthday parties, and why wouldn't anybody come to mine? And I truly thought back then that it was because I was unlovable. There was no part of me that anybody would have liked. And throughout those experiences, and even though I would spend my days, head straight to the floor, I'm sitting alone at recess, and while all these kids are playing tag or are being invited to go and play on the monkey bars, I was sitting on the curb staring at my feet, counting all the little rocks and pebbles on the ground until recess was over. That's what I would do every day. And when people would come up to me, my first thought was, are they going to make fun of me? What are they going to say about me now? And do I have anything? Is that my fault? Is it my fault that people are just coming up to me and making fun of me for no reason, simply because I'm sitting on the curb and nobody bothers to be around me? After so many years of facing those types of bullying and zero social existence, I came to the realization that I didn't want to be like anybody else, and I didn't want to try to fit in, because when I did, it wouldn't work. And when I tried to be somebody I wasn't, it wouldn't work either. It was simply my existence of being myself that people did not enjoy, and I will still to this day never get an answer, even from classmates. Years later, if I even connected to them, there will still never be an answer, because kids are kids, and you can never understand what is going through a kid's mind when they're making a decision or they're talking about something, and you never know what somebody's going through, especially as a kid. And so it can be very hard to understand the why. And so the only thing that I could do was accept. And so it's really sad, but I accepted that I was simply an unlovable person. My favorite book was a book called Unlovable by, I can't remember who it's by, but it's about this pug who is very different from all of the other pets in the neighborhood. And he believed that nobody loved him and that he wasn't cared for. But at the end of the book, the animals did accept him, and he was able to realize that he is a lovable creature and that he can't please everybody, and not everybody's going to accept him. I hold that book very close and very dear to my heart. I think it holds a lot of meaning, especially when I was a kid. I really needed that. I think I didn't have anybody to really talk to about it, because I didn't really tell anybody that I was struggling to make friends or things like that, unless, you know, when it came to those times where I would invite people and I would mail out my invitations, and I would get no RSVPs in return. And so I came to the realization that I just have to accept who I am. And if nobody wanted to be around me, that's fine, because I was okay with being by myself. I learned at a very young age that I was simply okay with playing by myself and imagining stories in my head by myself, and sharing stories and keeping things to myself, because I was the only person I had. It's very sad to talk about this stuff, but I think in the end it does shed some light on how you can turn a bad situation into a situation where you can get stronger and you can accept and grow from. I think sometimes people think that accepting when things are bad means that you're a pessimistic person, or that you just simply can't look at the good things about life. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that by accepting what's going on in situations and moving forward, putting that first step forward, really can change the trajectory of your perspective. And it can really help you gain a better understanding of yourself and build that self-worth that a lot of people spend their entire life searching for. I've reiterated this in my other podcast videos, but a lot of my friends have always came to me and was asking, how could I be somebody who can just, if someone says something to my face, I could simply walk away, and if someone's like, hey, are you okay from that? Like, you know, that person said something really rude to you. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, how can you just be okay with it? And I always say, well, that's not what I think of myself. Who cares about what somebody else thinks of me? They know nothing about me. And even people who could say, I know every single thing about you. I know everything and what goes on in your mind and how you think. No, you don't. Because in a split second, I can change that. If you think that my favorite color is pink, I could change it to green. And how would you no longer know who I am? You don't. Because humans are very adaptable creatures, and we change and we grow and we prosper and we evolve as people, especially through life experiences and especially through the stories that we have shared and the stories that we've heard from people. Simply from hearing stories from other people, it changes your perspective on how you view the world, because you become more sympathetic, and you have a better understanding. Although you can never be in their shoes, unless you've gone through the same similar situations, you can never be extremely empathetic towards somebody, because being empathetic means you do understand what they're going through. But if you don't, do you really know that person? Do you really know their mindset? Do you know what they were thinking when they were going through these experiences? Not necessarily. Even if you went through something similar, even if you were probably thinking, wow, nobody cares, or everybody's looking at me. But it's deeper than that. It's even deeper. It's feeling those emotions, and it's feeling and looking through those lenses that you will never understand. And with that perspective is what really helped me understand that no one's opinions and nobody's words really have an effect on me unless I deep down truly believe that that's what I am. If I believe it, then their words are true. But if I don't, then their words are simply just audio, verbal limericks coming out of their mouth that if I wasn't aware of the language, then I wouldn't understand what they were saying. Does that make sense? I think that a lot of people hold high expectations of themselves, and with those high expectations, they project it onto other people. And it makes them feel like other people's words are true and that they should believe it just because that's what everybody else is seeing. However, your eyes are your own eyes, and the way you view the world is on your own, and nobody can tell you that you are unlikable, that you are super weird, and that nobody would ever like you because you have a very weird personality, something so different. To them, over, I don't even know, 7 billion people live on this earth, and you're telling me that singular person telling you that you're weird and that you will never have capable of being liked defines you? Think about that for a second. Sit on it. Because when you start realizing that you are accepting yourself, and that no matter the cosmetic changes, the personality changes, no matter how many books you read, at the core you are yourself. And whatever you want to define yourself is who you are as a person. And the actions that you carry on for yourself is who you are. And people could say that they could turn that around and they could be like, okay, yeah, but when I was younger, I bullied somebody and those were my actions. So what does that define me as a person? At the time, that would define you as somebody who did something that was mean. But that doesn't make you a mean person. And that doesn't make you somebody who would do the same things today. If you confidently say that you would repeat those actions again and that you have no regrets for the things that you've done in your life, then that's who you are as a person. But if you start to question about your actions and why you would do the things that you do and whether or not those things are ethical and stay on your moral compass, then it helps you to wonder, I am capable of change and I am capable of being somebody who I want to become. Questioning your actions and questioning the things that you do is very realistic, and I think it is an extremely important part of growing as a person and evolving and accepting yourself and finding that self-worth that everybody's looking for. Because you can always be satisfied with who you are as a person, but you'll never be the person that you become if you stop growing and if you stop learning. And if you just sit, if you're walking, it's like you're walking for miles and then you get stuck in the mud and then you just say, okay, well, I'm stuck in the mud, my shoes are dirty, my feet are wet, and I don't really want to move anymore, my legs are tired. So I'm just going to stay in the mud, and I'm just going to accept that the fact that this mud is now my home. Even though in your mind, the journey that you wanted to go through since the very beginning wasn't the mud. You had a destination, you had an ideal, you had a place, you had an end goal, but you decided to stay in the mud because your feet were dirty and you're wet and you're cold and you're hungry and you're tired. But those are the challenges that you anticipated starting that journey, starting that goal. And realistically, they will come through. But the only way to get to that goal is to pull your feet out of the mud. Pull yourself out of it. Even if the mud is dry, it's cracked, it's probably cemented to your ground. Do something about it. Slam your fist into the ground, break up that cement, pull yourself from wherever you are and keep going, because that's the only realistic way in life. You get stuck in the mud, you're pessimistic. You only look at the goal, but you don't appreciate or anticipate or accept the fact that there are going to be challenges. You're optimistic. There's always a balance. And I believe as looking as realistically as possible, in the most logical way as possible, really is the true key to accepting and growing. So to that girl that was crying to her mom and not understanding why nobody would invite her, is to keep going, because people are people. People are going to be rude. People are going to be mean. People are going to say whatever they want to say because, I don't know, they're having a bad day. They had a fight with their partner. They didn't like what they saw in the mirror. But that's none of your control. That's nothing that you can do about that. You can't do anything about the words that are coming out of people's mouths. But the only thing you can do is understand who you are as a person and realize that it doesn't matter if nobody loves you. As long as you love yourself, then the people will come. With that thought in mind, I started to notice that when I started really appreciating myself and accepting myself, that I'm a loud person. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I have a bubble in my mouth. Let me drink some water. Pause. I have come to the acceptance that I am a very weird person and I am very proud, and that I am very stubborn and confident and direct and confrontational. And that's just who I've always been. I've never been anybody who was somebody who didn't want. If I saw something that I wanted, I would get it. That's the type of person I am. And I always saw rejection as redirection. Even when times were hard, even when I was sobbing and uncontrollably crying, and even though the intrusive thoughts are coming in being like, why am I not better? I'm a horrible person. I'm terrible. There was always a string of light in my mind that pulled me from that. My biggest moral compass and my biggest thought train that it took so long for me to build was that light, those line of words, that train of thought that always said, but I know who I am, and I'm not a bad person. I am panicking right now, and I'm spiraling, but I know that I'm not a bad person. I will feel it right now, but I know that this will get better. I will feel better, and this is not who I am. I am not this person. And even if somebody and all my actions tell me that I am this person, I will change myself to not be this person, because this is not who I want to be, and this is not who I aim to become. This is not who I want to remember myself as when I'm older, looking back at my past, thinking, wow, I have so many regrets. I have so many things I wish I would have just pulled myself up. I wish I had somebody telling me that I am not this person. But when you don't have anybody, and when you don't have any friends, and you don't have any family support, and you just have yourself, the only person who can tell you that is you. And when I tell people that, when I tell my friends and I tell my loved ones that that's what I think, they think, wow, I couldn't ever think like that. That thought simply alone is the reason why you can't. You thinking even for a second that that is the most impossible thing that you could ever achieve, that having those beliefs and having that confidence within yourself, that you know yourself, that's the thing that stops you. That first train of thought being like, I could never do that. And then that's it. The train of thought stops. However, when it comes to train of thoughts, I know everybody's like this, is that thoughts don't stop. When you sleep, it's not like, oh, done. Like when you close your eyes and when you sit in a quiet room, it's very difficult to hear nothing. Which is why people meditate a lot, which I still struggle to this day to meditate. And I think when people do reach that type of enlightenment, they will still have those trains of thoughts every once in a while. It's not, it doesn't break the cycle. You know, people will always have those thoughts, but the only thing that you can do about it is change the direction of the way you're thinking. Change the directions of those thoughts. Being like, I can't do that. But then you have to think to yourself, well, nothing's impossible. So there is a percent of myself who can do that. And even if that percent is 0.0000001%, still 0.00001%, at least try. At least give it your last-ditch effort. We'll have one life. Even if reincarnation is real, even if we can be reborn again, you'll never be reborn in that body, in that mind. You'll have that soul, but you'll never live that life ever again. So why stop yourself? Why stop yourself from any opportunity that you ever could think of yourself? Like, if you want to do something, give it a shot. If someone tells you you're not good enough and you can't do it, okay, you're not good enough now, keep going until you can. Or if you believe, okay, I believe it, I'm not that good, well, I still want to do something. What else can I do? What else can I be good at? Because rejection is redirection, but sometimes rejection can mean drive and can mean I'm going to get better until that rejection becomes exception. There's always multiple roads you can take. It just depends on which one you want to take. The only road that you can't take is the road that you're in right now when there's a fork and you can only have two ways. If there's not two ways, you know what I'm saying? But like, let's say you're walking down one road and all of a sudden you get met with 1,000 roads and you go, oh my gosh, do I pick the red road, the orange road, the yellow road, the green, the blue, the purple? I don't know which one. So you stay. You stay on that one road, you don't move anywhere, and you're stagnant. Well, what do? You're just sitting here in silence, staying where you are, having the same thoughts that you are, and just what? Nothing. Nothing happens. Nothing happens when you stay on the road that you are given opportunities and you don't accept any of them. Why? And when you are faced with many roads and many directions and many paths, the pressure of choosing the perfect one, the pressure of, well, if this doesn't go right, there will never be another one. There will never be another opportunity. And I should have chosen that one. And I should have chosen that one. Well, what's your favorite color? Pick that one. Because at the end of the day, sometimes choices don't have to be so strategic and don't have to be so analytical. Sometimes opportunities of, you want to go for a hike or you want to go swimming? Which one do you like better? Like being on land or do you like being on water? Just choose one and see where the wind takes you, because the universe always works in many ways. And when you feel like you're surrounded in the darkness and you can't even see any light, sometimes you just gotta walk. Sometimes you just gotta walk through the darkness and figure it out yourself. Sometimes you don't need the light to tell you which way is the right way. The only way that you think is the right way is the direction that you choose for yourself. And although I went through many hardships and I lacked many friends growing up, I did notice that the more that I accepted myself and the more that I loved myself, that light, that energy draws people in. It makes people want to talk to you and try to understand you. Try to see who you are as a person, because they see somebody who physically looks like they know themselves and they are within themselves and they are very much balanced. That's the energy that people draw in. It's a very natural effect that people have. And I would never give this advice out to people who want that. People being like, I want that energy that people want me to come. I want people to come to me and talk to me and like me and feel like that when I walk in the room, everybody's looking at me. I want that. If that's what you want, you'll never get there. Because you're wanting the expectations of other people. You're wanting to have an effect on other people. But the first step that you need to do is having an effect on yourself. You'll never get to what you want because you're not understanding the idea of why people are attracted to the people who walk through the door and is like, wow, they're so sure of themselves. They are so wise. They are so worth. I want to do that. But when you start comparing yourself and you're starting to want those expectations or that physical attraction, that physical appeal of having the paparazzi all around you and having everybody look at you and in awe and wow and applauding at you, you'll never get there because you aren't understanding that you have to be the one who is in awe of yourself and is accepting of yourself and is your own paparazzi and is your own expectations, your own eyes on yourself. Because once you start learning how to be the center of your life, other people are going to want to be in that life. But that isn't because you want them to, is it because they want to? Does that make sense? I think sometimes when I talk, sometimes it gets a little confusing and people don't really understand my thought processes. So I could try breaking this down in another example. Is that, honestly, I don't know if I can give a better example, but I could go a little bit deeper. It's like saying how it's your soul that people are attracted to, not what you look like, and not that you get the biggest smile in the room or that you're wearing the sparkliest, most flashiest outfit that is so flattering to your body. No, it's the way you carry yourself. It's your body language. It's the way you stand up taller and the way that your face looks so at peace and so mindful about everything is what is the reason why people want that effect. It's that why when people watch, they go, wow, I want that. I want people to come up to me and tell me that I am such a positive energy. Tell yourself that you're a positive energy. Believe that you are a positive energy. Carry out the world in a positive energy. Yin Yang plays a lot of parts in our lives, and having that balance of darkness and light and negative and positive is really what brings you together. You can't always be a positive person, but you shouldn't always be a negative person. You should always find balance within yourself in what you are comfortable in. And if what you're comfortable in is sadness and being stagnant, sorry, my grammar, then tell yourself, is that what you really want? Are you aiming for that? Is that your goal? Is staying where you are, laying in your bed, having no ambitions, having no passions, and just going through the motions of the day what you want? We are humans, and even though we are in a society that is locked down by governments and laws and rules, you can still find freedom within yourself, and you can still find a spirit to be yourself and to have it within yourself to carry that positive balance of energy towards other people, so in hopes that they will understand that positive energy and carry it within themselves. That is something I always hope for and I aim for. I think even when I'm having a day where I don't want to speak to anybody and I just want to be by myself, but I still actively choose to go out in public, and let's say someone comes up to me and just has a comment, I never try to project my internal energy and my internal emotions on somebody who had no actions towards how I'm feeling. And even when somebody is the reason why you are feeling angry, like knowing that the person who had a birthday party didn't invite you, and you will forever carry that remorse and that anger, you will come to realize that you are the only person who made yourself feel that way. You are the only person that felt like they should be angry and that they deserve to be angry and remorseful. But sometimes it is better to not take up so much time and space and energy of your life on somebody who doesn't deserve it. Because if you're angry, if you're sad, you care. Because there's a part of you that wished for a different outcome. There's a part of you that wished that if they just invited you, you wouldn't be feeling this way anymore. If that they just noticed you, you wouldn't have to feel so sad and burdened. And to that, I'd have to say, they never, ever deserve the way you feel. Because the way you feel is so strong and has so much energy, but the only thing that it affects is you. It never affects that person. They never are going to absorb that anger and feel it for themselves and feel, wow, I feel really angry. This is exactly how somebody else should feel. Should you really be putting your time and efforts into making them feel the way you feel when you can carry on with your life and find peace? And if you are angry and if you are saying, yes, they deserve it. They deserve everything. Because they took everything from me my entire life. I spent days and nights awake, thinking about this, dreaming about this. And if that is what gives you peace of mind, then that is the choice that you will have to sit with, and that is the choice that you must accept. But for me, most of the time, I choose to take the latter. But it's not like that for everybody else. And circumstances and things and situations, I could never speak to the people who have gone through horrible things. And I could never understand the amount of anger and sadness and burden that they must feel every single waking hour and every single day of their life because of this event or because of things that have happened. If you truly believe at the bottom of your heart that this is what you will do, this is the time and this is the energy that you will commit, do it. Fully support, because as long as you are willing to accept the fact that that is what you want to do, and that's the fact that you believe that they deserve to know how you feel, I support it. I accept it, because you can never understand, and I can never understand. Nobody will. Only you. And that is the choice that people must make. And nobody can tell you otherwise. You can visit your therapist and you can talk to people all you want, but at the end of the day, it'll still be your choice. Words of guidance and words of advice will always be here and be available to you. But at the end of the day, if your mindset is at your mindset, there's nothing in the world that can change it. Nothing. Only you. And only the experiences that you experience for yourself. And I think that took me a long time for me to learn. I've always been somebody who's always wanted to help people and have always wanted to almost be like that therapist friend. But I've learned that it's very hard to give people advice and them not reciprocating it, and you're just watching, and all you can do is watch. But then there's a part of yourself that blames you, that blames yourself, saying, I am the reason why they're still suffering. I haven't changed them enough. I haven't convinced them enough. They don't believe in themselves enough because of me. It's because of my fault. And you carry and you shoulder that burden. After a long time, it took me a long time for me to break that process. But afterwards, I've learned that if people ask me for advice, and if people come to me for advice, I will provide it. But there is no emotional part of me that feels bad if they keep going, and what happens to them, and whether it's good or bad, I'm responsible for. You are never responsible for other people's actions and other people's emotions. Other than unless, things happen, and if you are a guardian or if you are somebody that people are looking up to and you give somebody something and they decide to act on it and they trusted you with that advice and that's what happens, it is what it is. There is always a little bit of responsibility that can be taken for that, but it isn't ever all your fault. It isn't ever anybody's all their fault. It's not. Nobody takes 100% of the responsibility. No one takes 100% of the consequences. There are so many things into play and things that happen. So remember that. Now you must be thinking, or maybe some of you are thinking, okay, you're saying things, but then you're also taking them back, and then you're saying things again, and then you're taking it back. That's exactly the point. It's to make you wonder This podcast has never been something that I say you do it, or this is my perspective, you should have this perspective too. Never, ever. You click on this video and you watch it, and my purpose is to put a perspective and to put a story for myself and my stories and my experiences for you to share and to understand. But if you don't understand, or if you don't think what I'm saying is correct, well, that's fine. That's okay, because I'm not you. I'll never be you, and I'll never understand what you've gone through. And that's a part of it. But that is also why I do push and I pull, I give and I take away, because it's for you to find and it's for your journey to understand. What I'm giving you doesn't mean that this is the only way. This is the only mindset. There's thousands of podcasts out there with so many other perspectives and so many other mindsets, so I will never be able to provide you the comfort that you are looking for. The only person that can provide that comfort is yourself. And so to the girl that is struggling to understand why she was the only kid that wasn't invited to the birthday party, all I have to say is accept yourself, know yourself, and know that these kids are not your world. You are your only world. You are your only light. There is nobody who can tell you that, who can define you as a person, who can tell you whether or not that you're capable of making friends, or you're capable of being liked and loved and appreciated. There is only yourself. And you are beautiful, and you are kind, and you are strong and confident and capable. Whether or not you've failed in your life, whether or not you've fallen and scraping your leg after learning the first time how to ride your bike. Because failure doesn't mean that that's where you should stay. Sometimes failure means that you can try again, or you don't, and you move on and you accept it, but you don't let it ever stop you from doing anything else. You can't ever say, well, I'm bad at that, so I'm just never gonna do anything of that sort, anything around that hemisphere. Why? Have you ever tried that specific thing? No. So put it for this. It's saying, like, I was just talking about this to my sister, that I suck at sewing. I'm horrible at it. And I told myself, I'm terrible at sewing. I just lack the patience and I lack everything else. But I never stopped that from, like, trying it again. I know that I'm really bad at it, but I'm gonna try, because I don't want to be bad at it. And even though naturally I lack a lot of patience and I am not a very precise or accurate person, I'm very wild and very crazy, and I like to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And so sewing doesn't really do that, because there's only really one way. If you go the other way, then it gets all weird and crinkly and it doesn't really sit very well. I'm going on a tangent. Besides that point, is that I have tried other things around the idea of sewing, and I've pricked myself many times on needles and things like that, but I've just come to accept that I'm bad at it, but I'll keep going. I'll keep trying, because it doesn't hurt me. Whatever. Okay? Like, and, you know, when you look at those athletes who break their leg, and they're professional athletes, they never stop themselves just because they failed that one time. They just couldn't do that one trick, that one skill. They're gonna keep gaining it, whether or not how long it takes. So keep going and keep trying, because we are human and we aren't stagnant creatures, and we go through cycles and we ebb and flow and push and pull, and we have darkness and we have lightness. So find it within yourself to accept who you are and to keep trying, because it never hurts to try, and it doesn't make you somebody who is hated and is horrible. You are a human being, and as long as you tell yourself that you are capable and that you are lovable, no one can ever stop you, and no one can ever make you feel like you aren't. And that wraps up the end of my podcast. I hope everybody has a great night. It's currently like almost 2 o'clock in the morning for me, but this is the best time for me to get all my thoughts out. And I hope you liked this video, and I will try to make more. I know the last podcast I made was a month ago, and I'm sorry, y'all. Like, I've been working, and I've been hustling, and I've been getting my education and getting my bag. So it's been a lot harder for me to sit down with my thoughts and really get everything out. But lately, after my trip to Hawaii and just being surrounded by nature and just being able to, I also visited many temples, and I feel like whenever I visit temples, I always feel like I come back to myself. Sometimes I lose myself and I come back to it. And after just praying for myself and hoping that even during the dark times and even during the challenges I know I'm going to be having this year, that I will be okay and I will be strong and I will come through, because I know I can do it. And I know that even if I'm struggling, I can always get better, especially if I ask for help, or especially if I push myself to do it. So I think that that really helped me make this podcast today, and I will try my very hardest to keep pushing more out weekly, and hopefully I'll see you guys next week. Bye.